It is a chilling scene. Endless lines of crosses in a forest. And there is little dignity for the dead here. Very few of the graves have names.
These graves here are marked 256, 254, 258. Most of the graves here are marked only with numbers, but inside the ground here are people's mums, dads, brothers, sisters, and even children.
This giant burial site in the city of Izium, only discovered when Ukrainian forces pushed Russian troops out of this northeasterly region. The site now a symbol of Russia's brutality in Ukraine.
Well, this is one of the grimmest scenes you can ever witness. One of the investigators has just written on this body bag, 92, anonymous man.
The area becoming a giant crime scene. Forensic teams carefully exhuming hundreds of dead bodies from the ground. Ukrainian officials saying many of the victims met a violent death, and some of the bodies show signs of torture.
Well, the forensic team here have just removed the body of a man from one of the unmarked graves, and it's obvious that he had his hands tied behind his back.
The anguish of relatives like Ludmila impossible to comprehend.
So Ludmila is showing us to the grave of her husband. She says so many people have died. Too many people, she says.
Ludmila's husband killed by an airstrike in the days after Russia invaded.
Никого людей на улице не было, не знаю, все прятались, сильно нас бомбили. И с той стороны, и с той со всех сторон. В Изюм летело все. В общем, я выбралась.
Written on a piece of paper in Ludmila's hand are numbers.
107 и 107.
И 107.
Okay. So Ludmila says numbers 27 and 107 that she's written on this piece of paper. She doesn't know which of those numbered graves her mother-in-law's body could be in.
Adding to the pain and confusion, the fact that some graves here contain more than one body.
This was a mass grave that contained the bodies of Ukrainian soldiers. It's written on the wooden cross which marked it, 17 men from Izium from the morgue, and prosecutors say that one of the bodies showed signs of torture.
But most of those buried here are civilians, and we found the graves of children too.
So 2 girls aged 6 and 9.
Prosecutors investigating how the most innocent died.
Yevgen, do we know how these children were killed?
Загинули внаслідок обстрілу військами Російської Федерації.
As Russian forces moved into Izium, this building was badly bombed, killing those sheltering inside.
More than 40 people were killed in this apartment block when it was struck in the early days of the war. Entire families wiped out. And we're told many of the victims are buried in that mass burial site in the forest nearby. You were in the building when it was hit?
This is my apartment.
We met Sergei, who was inside with his mum when the missiles landed, killing so many of his neighbours and friends.
People who died in your apartment block are buried in the forest. How does that make you feel?
I feel nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. Every day we saw bodies, parts of bodies. I feel nothing.
You're used to it after 6 months of war.
Addressing the UN, President Zelensky comparing the killing in Izium to the atrocities in Bucha when Russian forces retreated from areas near Kiev in the spring, saying the only difference was that victims in Izium were buried, whereas in Bucha they were scattered on the streets.
How can we allow the Russian army somewhere on Ukrainian soil, knowing that they are committing such mass murders everywhere? We cannot.
And like Bucha, the horror stories in Izium only coming to light because the Russians retreated. Russian flags now in the trash and placed under the doormat into the mayor's office. The Ukrainian flag flying again.